There is significant focus right now on Italy's Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, ahead of EU elections next week. The right-wing leader of the Brothers of Italy party became Prime Minister 2 years ago. It alarmed EU leaders at the time. She formed the most right-wing government since World War II and Mussolini. Now, these were some of the headlines at the time. The papers asking, is she the most dangerous woman in Europe? I think we can see some of those headlines from 2 years ago. Here's a Spectator newspaper. Perhaps we will, perhaps we won't. But they were asking, is she here the most dangerous woman in Europe? Fast forward 6 months, there was a sense from within Europe that she was willing to work with the centre and the centre-right, the centrist powers base, rather than being a disruptor on economic policies and in support of Ukraine. So let's flash up some of those other headlines from The Telegraph, for example, at the time. We may not, but a critic's claiming she is or was a wolf in sheep's clothing, saying she has confounded her critics perhaps. Her rivals claim this is a pretense. She is far pretending to be less right-wing, and domestically she's against immigration, for the family, against what she calls the rise of LGBT pressure groups. So that brings us to now. Let's flash up the headline from The Economist this week. Marine Le Pen, the opposition right-wing leader, tried to lure her to be part of a great right-wing super bloc in Europe, whilst on the other side, Ursula von der Leyen saying that she could work with her within the centre-right. So let's try to understand what we're going to call the Meloni Gambit and understand why her next decision could be key to the future of the bloc. And let's cross to Italy. Let's cross to Rome. Let's bring in Lorenzo Castellani, a research fellow at Luis Guido Carli University. Great to have you on the programme, first of all, Lorenzo. Give me your take on the Meloni Gambit right now and the push-pull factors she's facing.
Well, Meloni's gambit is precisely what the economy put in its cover. Meloni is trying to act as a bridge between far right and the European Popular Party. And her idea is precisely to exploit, this position to carve out political advantages for her and for Italy. Basically, she aims to be very influential on the next European Commission, particularly in shaping, the decision on the election of the president of the Commission. She was able to get a very solid relationship with Ursula von der Leyen, but what we can consider is that we can expect she could vote an APP candidate as president, whoever will be, and this will give her more, political space for maneuvering in the next European Commission and to shape a better relationship between her government and the next European Commission.
To understand the dynamics, you kind of have to explain, particularly to France 24 viewers outside of Europe and some within, actually. It's quite complicated, but there are general blocks within the EU that 27 countries will be voting in the EU elections, and they form in their party blocks. So you have the Socialists, again, easy to explain as a group. You have the Greens, and then to that you have the left on the side. You have the centrists, the Liberals, the old Liberals, the Macron party, for example, involved in that. You mentioned the dominant force predicted to have the highest seats, but fragmented this time, which is the EPP, the Conservatives. This is where Meloni comes in. She currently there are two far-right parties. One nationalist group called European Conservatives and Reformists, which is where Giorgia Meloni's party sit. And then you have where Marine Le Pen sits on the Identity and Democracy group. If you form them together, well, projections suggest the ECR in the Identity and Democracy Party could be the second biggest within the bloc, and that's why Meloni's vote matters. Just give us a profile of Giorgia Meloni, how you think she's transformed, if she has at all, politically in the past 2 years since taking power.
Well, what we can say to sum up her political line is that she is using a national populist rhetoric, but she is governing and acting as a moderate, particularly in the economy and international relationship. So Meloni was able to get the respect of the other European leaders in this 1 year and a half she is governing. At the same time, she was able to bond, very good relationship as well with the White House and with Joe Biden. and supporting Ukraine and NATO, for example. So she cannot be considered today as a typical populist leader, in the sense that she's governing not very differently from an APP leader. But of course, she continues to use, for gaining support, her original national populist rhetoric. So the future will be who really is Giorgia Meloni. And I think in the next months, we could better understand who she is, if she wants to become, a European leader accepted by the European establishment and, very influential within the European governance, or the head of a sort of very large ghetto, the ghetto of the far right that could not govern for a matter of alliances in the next years in Europe. So the truth, we will discover the truth in a few months.
But this fascinates me, Lorenzo, because you're in Rome. Giorgia Meloni is in Rome, from Rome. She's been giving rallies there. 2 years in, you are asking the question, not just us, who is Giorgia Meloni? And you are saying you are yet to see which way she might go. It is still that unpredictable.
Yeah, she maintains a sort of ambiguity. First of all, for electoral reason, there's a part of the Italian public opinion that continued to be Eurosceptical and conservative. There's another part that is very relevant, that is the moderate part. So she's trying to bridge these two elements at domestic level in Italy, and the same she's replicated at the EU level. So this is why she's unpredictable, because she maintains this ambiguity, and this ambiguity is paying off for her now. She's polling higher than she got in 2022 political election, and at the same time, her strength as a political leader is higher than 1 year and a half ago. So what we can expect is that she will try to maintain a good relationship with the EPP, voting for the next president of the European Commission, but we cannot expect that she will participate eventually to an enlargement of the current coalition in Brussels. So we cannot expect, or we are not, very sure that she can join eventually entirely the majority in Brussels. Probably she will remain in the middle between, some votes with the next majority and some votes with Identity and Democracy and the other conservatives.
Lorenzo, very briefly, we talk about what her appeal can be. She doesn't go for high-flung statements in terms of quotations like we hear from Macron quoting French philosophers or Sartre. She talks about her favourite novelist, J.R. Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, talking about that being the true fight against dark forces. Is that what she tries to tap into? Is that successful, that populist element within her?
Yes, Tolkien is a sort of cultural symbol for the Italians, right? So Meloni, she's very fond of the English author, and she's quoting himself and the Lord of the Rings many, many times during her speeches. This is why she wants to maintain a profound relationship with her history and with her historical electorate. So this is why she is mixing up, this style of a national populist rhetoric and a very pragmatic approach in government, at the same time aiming to build a solid relationship with the European Union. But what I could say is that it's very difficult to consider Giorgia Meloni as a great danger for the survival of the European Union today. What we saw in the last year and a half is a process of moderation of Giorgia Meloni, at least on fundamental elements as economy, foreign policy, or permanence in the Eurozone, and managing of the Italian public debt.
Lorenzo, great to talk to you. Lorenzo Castellani, history professor in Rome.
Thank you very much.